Hi everybody and welcome to a very special episode of The Vault. This is the Fallout review discussion. We're also going to get on to some war stories later on, but first, to introduce today's cast. To my left.
Hi, Miranda Sanchez, that's me.
Next to her.
I'm Steve Butts.
Yep.
And I'm Dan Stapleton.
Dan's our reviewer. Those of you wondering where Sean is, he's in the booth right now filming this. He'll be back next week. So thank you. Yeah, hi Sean. So let's get right into it. Dan, you reviewed this game. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 9.5.
Ooh, that's a good score.
I think it's real good.
Yeah, it's real good.
I think it's an amazing game.
So how did that story contribute to that score? What's the story have to do with this?
I think it's one of the best stories that Bethesda's done.
Wow.
So I think probably the best story that Bethesda's done. I actually haven't played all of them, but the best one I've played out of their last several, certainly.
So you're talking across the arc, not just the Fallout universe, but the arc of Bethesda's games in general.
Yeah, I mean, Bethesda has only done one Fallout game before this, Fallout 3. New Vegas was Obsidian.
Yeah.
And I think New Vegas' story I might like a little bit better, but this is up there.
Okay, cool. Now, we're being very careful about spoilers here, but guys, you're a little bit into the story. Are you enjoying it so far?
I am, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, Dan and I were just talking about this. I'm 40 hours deep in the game. I've done 2 main quests.
That's pretty much how I played Skyrim.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, my experience of the story is just all the emergent stuff that comes about as a result of your interaction with the world, and then all the little side quests, all the little bits and pieces that you find in the odd corners of the Fallout wasteland. That are nevertheless like engaging from a story perspective, but humorously like sometimes disconnected. Like you go in one place and you find a can of yellow paint and blue paint, and you mix them together to make green paint, and you have no idea what's happening, and then 8 hours later somebody says, boy, I could really use some green paint, and you say, I have such back at Sanctuary right now, let me go grab it for you.
Okay. What about you, Miranda?
Also kind of just going through the main story very slowly. I find it really interesting that as I've done a lot more side quests, those relate to other quests I do later. Like, oh, well, we know you because you did this big thing. I'm like, oh, hello. Oh, yes, that's me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see how that impacts maybe what you do and what you don't do. And it's like, if I hadn't done this thing, would they have trusted me more?
But none of you have beaten the story besides me.
Not even close.
Right, and which I think, the story contributes to what makes Fallout great, but the world is the much more interesting part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The story is a very small part of it, really, in the grand scheme of things.
We know from the beginning, this is no spoiler for anybody in the first few minutes of the game, your son is missing. And that's a matter of some urgency in a human life. If your child disappears,
They pretend like it is, but this is one of my issues with the game, and I don't think it's specific to Fallout. I think it's more about the computer RPG genre in general, is that there's no sense of time or the pressure of time. So, yeah, Sean's missing, but let me stop and collect all these ashtrays and clipboards before I go find him.
Ooh, mud fruit,
Yeah, I found one settlement where they said, hey, there's some raiders right next door that are giving us problems. And then there was another settlement right next to that where a guy said, my father's been kidnapped, and he's all the way over on the other side of the map. And I thought, well, the kidnapping seems a little more urgent, but like the raiders are right there. Why don't I go do that first, and then I'll find your father? And there was never any sense, for me at least, that choosing to delay that second mission would ever come back to bite me.
Now, let me ask you this. Fallout 1 had a time limit for story reasons. As a matter of fact, it had 2 time limits, depending on different things that you set off. Would you prefer that you have a big open world with no time limits and have the story abstraction, or would you prefer that pressure that comes with an urgency being pushed in by some kind of outside imposed restriction?
I think it makes sense to have like quests expire. Like if you have a call for help from somebody and like, hey, I'm locked up by super mutants and they're probably gonna eat me soon or something. That guy is gonna die soon, so it would make more sense to have that as a limited engagement thing.
So they do have, in Fallout 4, they do have one thing that is time limited, and that's the settlement defenses.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the only time those happen. And actually, honestly, when that happens, I'm annoyed because I don't want to necessarily stop what I'm doing and go defend the settlement. So most of the time, I just didn't.
So critically, you preferred what they did with this. Then you were very happy with the way they put it.
Yeah, and I think contextually, they do a good job of making those things seem important but not imminent, because of the kind of cryogenic nature of the story. Like you know that some time has passed. That even if it's whether it's hours or whatever, that some time has passed from when Sean was taken. So it's not like I have to chase that guy down right now. It's just the overall. I want to find out what happened to my son.
And that makes sense too because you can't just automatically hunt him down and ask one person, hey, where's this kid? Oh, he's right there. All right, it's not going to be that immediate.
Back to the clipboards.
Yeah.